This is the invisible ink experiment. Now, invisible ink has been used for a long time. When I was a kid, we used to do invisible ink. I'm going to show you one way I used to do it, and we'll talk about other ways in a while. What I'm going to use is 2 different substances for my ink. I'm going to use lemon juice, and of course, lemon juice can be got not just from whole lemons, so you can buy a lemon and cut it up and squeeze the juice out. That's one way of doing it. Of course, that's fine. I must admit, I cheated. I bought one of these where it's already in there for us, and so I've just taken it out and I've squeezed some into this cup. Okay, so you do need a couple of little cups. You can use egg cups because you're going to use them to dip a brush or something in it you're going to use to draw or write with. Okay, so I squirted that in there. Now I'm going to move these out of the way just for a minute. So that's my lemon juice. You can see here, this is milk. This is just full cream milk, and I'll show you the difference between the two once we use them. I've got some water here because I'm going to have to rinse my brush in a minute. I'm actually going to use the same brush for this, so I'm just going to rinse it out and then dry it and then use it again. You'll see what I mean. And over here, I've got a baking tray. Okay. Now, this is what I want you to do. I'm obviously going to do my version of this. You may choose to do it differently, but this is exactly what I'm going to do. Here's my paintbrush, okay? Now I'm using quite a fine nibbed paintbrush here. You may choose to use something different, but I'm using quite a fine nibbed one. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna dip my brush in the lemon juice and write and draw a couple of things. So here we go, let's see how we get on with this one. So let's do L. E. You probably guess where I'm going with this one. M. O. N. Okay. Now you might notice already the paper is raising a little bit where we've got it wet. That's okay. Well, I think I'll just draw a wiggly line. And I think under that I'm going to draw a straight line. Well, not quite straight, but not a bad effort I suppose. And then I'm going to just write my name quickly underneath that. I'm going to do it in little letters. Oops. D. R. M. A. R. K. And I'm going to put a line under it. Now, that's the lemon juice, and we've given our clue so we remember which is which. Of course, I've got the word lemon. Now let's just rinse it out a bit. Now we have some lemon water. Okay, now you don't have to worry too much about drying it, to be honest, but what I might do just very quickly is dab it on my coat. That's another reason why we wear lab coats. Okay, to dry things with. Now I'm going to use the milk. Okay, now of course there's still a little bit of water on there, but by swishing it around in the milk, remember this is full cream milk, I'm going to do the same thing pretty much, but this time I'm going to write a different word at the start. I wonder if you can figure out what I'm likely to write. M. I. L. And then a wiggly line and a straight line and E. M. Okay, Jolly good. Now, of course, you're going to say to me, well, Dr. Mark, that doesn't look very invisible. I can see it there already. Well, that's true, because what you need to do is to let it dry, totally dry. So take it somewhere where you can dry it off. But before you do, I suggest you lay it in a baking tray. Now, of course, I'm using one of these disposable baking trays. You can use a proper metal one if you like. And I'm going to lay it in there. Now, you need to put this somewhere where you can dry it off. So when you come back to it, you shouldn't be able to see anything on it. Because remember, this is invisible ink. You don't want to be able to see anything there. When you send it off to be dried, wherever you're going to leave it, once you come back and it's completely dry and you can't see anything, what you then want to do is get the oven, set your oven to about 190 degrees Celsius, okay, 190 degrees, 190, which on a gas cooker would be about gas mark 5, okay. Get the oven right up to full temperature, so in other words, preheat the oven. Once that's dry and you can't see anything, put it in the oven, obviously being very sensible, all the heat and all the rest of it, leave it in the oven and cook it at that temperature for about 10 minutes, okay? And then after that, take it out and see what's happened. So, I wonder what you found out. Well, I'm going to show you one we did. Now, we did actually do one almost exactly the same a little bit before the one I showed you, and we let it dry out and we did put it in the oven in exactly the way I asked you to do it. I'm going to show you what happened. So here we are, as you can see, exactly the same in every other way. So let's have a look. Here we have a piece of paper with the same sort of writing on it. And you can see, first of all, the colour. It's gone this sort of browny, light browny, sort of henna-y colour, isn't it? Light browny colour. And but you can see it quite clearly, can't you? It's interesting because they both look similar in colour. I want you to notice a couple of things. Notice the wiggly lines. Do you notice the way they fade? As they start off, they fade and they almost disappear to the other side of the piece of paper. Same down there. Same with the straight lines. They get slightly more faint towards the other end, over to that direction. So what's happening, I wonder? So why should the writing that started off clear once it had dried, why after put it in the oven does it come out looking this colour? Right, well, interesting thing first to note before I actually explain the details, they've come out pretty much the same colour. Now that suggests that maybe there was something similar going on for both of them, and that is actually what's happening, because it turns out that in both lemon juice and milk we have something called carbon. Carbon is a very common substance. It's found all over the planet, and our whole body has made loads of carbon in it. Some scientists would actually tell you we're a carbon-based life form because we use carbon. It's a really important substance for us and living things. These materials have tons of carbon in. Now what's interesting about carbon is when you saw it and it had dried out, it's transparent, it's invisible essentially. But when you heat it up to a certain temperature, the sort of temperature you heated it up to in your oven, carbon, it changes it. And it makes it come apart from some of the things it's already linked to, and probably linked to other things too. And one of the things it actually links to is oxygen that you had in your oven. So it would have been joining up with the oxygen. And when it does that, it changes colour. And it goes this dark colour, this dark brown colour. Now where I'll give you a little clue where you've also possibly seen it and not realised is in toast. When you put bread in a toaster, it comes out this sort of dark browny colour, doesn't it? Same thing's happening. You're heating up the carbon in the bread, and the bread carbon changes colour, same as this. So it's the carbon in the lemon juice and in the milk, which at high temperature changes colour and becomes visible. So that's why you can see it. So what other things could we change? Well, I've just used lemon juice and milk in this experiment because, to be honest, that's what I used to use as a kid. That's what we used to do when I was a child growing up. We used to use these materials, lemon especially. But there are other materials that do work that you can easily find around your house. I'll give you a clue for a couple of things to think about. I won't tell you what actually happens with them, but try baking soda. Maybe a teaspoon of baking soda in about 100 ml of water, mix it up, and put it on with a brush, a bit like I did. What about sugary solution? So get some sugar, mix it in a similar amount, a heaped teaspoonful of sugar in about 100 ml of water, mix it up. What about other juices from other fruits? For example, orange juice, do you think that might work? What about tea? Or some other drink, perhaps, some fizzy drink maybe. I wonder what that'll do. I think I've got you thinking already on some other things you can try in terms of the liquids. A couple of things I want to mention about what you use. I used a very fine brush. Now you've got to be a bit careful here, because if you use something that's too fat, if you like, and so too much stuff comes up on the paper, what can happen is when it dries off, you can actually see it. It's all wrinkly. You won't see any colour, but you'll see it's wrinkly where the letters are, and you'll be able to read the wrinkles if you like. Now be a bit careful there, because it's not really invisible then, is it? Because you can actually see where the writing is. So if you find whatever you use leaves wrinkles where you can actually read the wrinkles, although they are still invisible in a way, what I suggest you use is something a bit finer. And to be honest, when I was a youngster, we used to use dip pens. I must admit, we had fountain pens and proper pens when I was a kid, but dip pens, you can still buy them now in art shops, and you just dip it in. It's like a fountain pen, but you just dip it in ink usually. But you can get a dip pen from an art shop, dip it in the liquid you're going to use, and just write with it like a normal pen. That's another way of doing it. But I'm sure you can think of some other things you could use to spread it onto the paper.